Hello, welcome to another episode of Biography of a Full Body Tattoo with your host, Lucien Gray. Today's episode is the second episode of Season 2.0. And if you remember, the last episode was actually last weekend, where I talked about where we had the ritual where we burned my hair to honor the new tattoo which was going on the back of my head. And after that, the week was really exciting. Leading up to that, it's very interesting. Now, I want to talk about life and how these chapters are really significant in affecting my life going through it. A lot of tattoos, every time I get a tattoo, usually it's a very specific time in my life when something, or rather, changes drastically. If you remember from the first season, where I talked about my hand tattoo, my very first true part to the full body tattoo on my right hand, that one was very significant to signify strength in myself. And I'm not talking about the strength from the pain, but I'm talking about strength from the situation that happened that led way into this tattoo and the feelings that I got with the tattoo. If you remember, it was a day when I was a third wheel in a date, and we get to our destination, and they only used me as a patsy, so that to make it less of a weird situation with the father that drove them. So I was left in the middle of nowhere, and I had a lot of time to think for myself. And of course, I got plenty of emotions that ran through: depression, confusion, and then eventually it's completely switched over when the idea started to manifest in my head about the tattoos and the henna design that turned into this first tattoo. And it went from these negative emotions over to really positive emotions. And then, eventually I got that tattoo, and it really was the start to everything about my full body tattoo and how they represent my life and what I've been going through. Now, so there was that one, the really strong beginning to everything. And then, as I continued along, I was learning about people in the world. In the continuing episodes after that one, you learned about how I was neglected and not treated very well, like how a person should be. And but the tattoos also gave me the strength to go beyond that and understand that. What was going on, and it made me a stronger person, even being in those situations. They always say you have to learn the hard way with everything, which means you gotta hit rock bottom before you learn. You gotta be slapped in the face before you understand what the heck happened. And so that's a reoccurring factor in a lot of things that happen to people. You can tell somebody something, but they're not really going to understand it until it really happens to them. And so it's a learning process. Life is a learning process for everybody. Some people get these things done to them at different times. So some people learn at different times, and that's just how it works. Being somebody who is more of a solitary being, by myself a lot, I had most of my life to just concentrate on my own mind and try to figure out the world around me and how everybody else interacted. That's another thing that I was kind of explaining, how I'm very much one of those people watchers. I like to sit back and observe what's going on with life around me. And in turn, that teaches me about life. And I think it's great. A lot of people are unable to just sit there and in a quiet setting and just watch. A lot of people can't do that. But the people who can learn about life in a different way, a different light. And I think it's very fortunate for those people. And I think it's fortunate for everybody if they can learn to just, every once in a while, just calm down and just take in the energy around you. And just think for yourself and question everything around you. But, and so this is giving way into the situation that happened during the week, this past week, where this was another life-changing event that happened to me. Now, of course, I already knew it was going to be life-changing because of the position at the back of my head, having to shave my hair off, and getting my skull tattooed. You're already thinking of these images in your head of somebody poking your head with needles and shoving ink under your skin. That's got to be one of the most painful things you can ever go through. But I'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to first give you an intro into how this event changed my life, as well as many of the other ones which you've learned about through the course of watching these videos. Now, this one in particular, in this most recent time in my life, I'm really learning about how to accept other people's the aspects about people that annoy. We can say it as blunt like that. Obviously, everybody doesn't get along with everybody. We're not friends with everybody. Some people try to be. But you can't be friends with everybody. There's different people everywhere, and so in this new job that I have recently, that I started 2 years back, in this new facility, there's a lot more people. I talked about in the last facility, I was more alone in the departments that I was working for. So I didn't have to deal with people all the time, unless it was in a very professional setting. Now in this new facility, it's a lot more of an open type of atmosphere, where people are all around chit-chatting and whatnot and goofing off and stuff, and that's just, it irritates me because I'm more the person who likes to just sit there and do my job and take care of business. And so, but within this time, this is the time in my life where I'm learning to accept other people for how they act in society, and it's a great skill for me to learn. I'm just having a very difficult time trying to understand that. Like I said, most of my life I've been alone and by myself, and so I didn't have to deal with a lot of interactions with society and whatnot. And so now coming into this at such an older age, it's a very good challenge to try to accept all that. And so in my head, I'm rushing with all of these emotions and feelings from all these different ways that people are interacting with each other, and it's driving me crazy. But and it's been going on for a while now, ever since I got into this new setting. But I can see it getting better and better as time goes on. And I think, like I just said at the beginning of this video, you have to hit rock bottom before you start to see the rainbow at the other end. Before you start to get better. And so a couple weeks ago, it did hit rock bottom, and I really lost it myself, and it was not a very fun time, but it was building up and building up until the emotions flew out of me without my control. But because of that, Because of that happening, I eventually gained the power to control more of those feelings and emotions. And ever since then, I've been able to calm myself in those harsh environments more successfully. So I'm very happy that that I went through it and I made it through it, and eventually it was just inevitable that this tattoo was going to be a good representation of the symbol between switching over between, you know, that person with the uncontrollable emotions to now this person who can understand and accept things around me. And that's as personal as I'm going to get right now. So let's say that ever since the last video, my emotions were rising in a way that's excitement. I was getting very excited for this new tattoo, and it was coming down, and oh man, that whole week the emotions were flying, good emotions, and excitement and anticipation filled my body, and finally the day came where the appointment was it was the day of the appointment, last week, the end of last week, and I finish work and I go to the shop because if that's what I've been doing is where like I said in past episodes, I try to get the tattoo right before my weekend, and so that I have an extended weekend just to handle the tattoo and heal it and make sure it's all non-stressed, and just focus on the healing process during the few days off before I have to go back to work. And so I had a good 3 days. This is actually the third day. So it was 3 days ago when I got the outline done. Like I said, this particular tattoo is going to be in a two-parter because it's taking 2 appointments to actually finish the tattoo. So now it was very fun going into the shop that day because I go into the shop and you know, the night before I even tried to cut my hair down more in the back of my head to prepare for the artist who has to actually get the really close shave before he actually tattoos the back of my head. And so I get in there and he starts shaving, and oh man, for some reason I have really thick hair. And that did not help the situation. I have thick hair. So it took him a while to actually get the whole area completely shaved down real close. Now also I should note that he has never done a head tattoo before. He's never had to shave a head. So it was a learning process for both of us, which was great. I was completely fine with that. And so he shaved back my head. It took a while, and then eventually we started to try to lay out the design. Now this is always the hardest part with my designs. Well, most of my designs, especially what I've done to this guy. We've had to manipulate the design while we were even there, sometimes, to actually get the design to actually work on me. If you remember, we had to do that with my foot, actually I think that my foot and my leg are probably the next most challenging tattoos that I put this guy through. And now my head was the next one, because obviously the head is round, it's like a dome, and so it's going to curve in a weird way, and then when it gets off of the skull on top, when it gets down to more to the spinal column that goes up onto the neck part, and when it gets onto the neck, you know, it's like a dome, but then it curves in and then out and around, and then it goes onto my back, so it bulges out. Oh man, it was very difficult for him. It actually took us 3 hours. 3 hours just to get the design on my head. You know, first he tried to put it on, and the design wasn't working because of all the curves in the back of my head. And so he actually chopped the design in half at a certain part of it, and tried to get just the top on. And so we spent a while trying to get that exactly perfect, because my ears aren't at the same place, on both sides of my head. So we tried to make it as perfect as possible, and looking really good from the back. Of course, me standing up straight is kind of difficult, especially for the fact that I'm 6'3" and he's only the higher end of 5 feet, and so he had to use a step stool to get to the back of my head. And so, and of course me rocking forward when he tries to put pressure on it, that was difficult. So eventually we decided that he's gonna just lay me down into the hole of the table, the tattoo chair, and my head would go in the hole, and then at least the top of my head doesn't move like the neck does. And so he was able to get that design on top very nice and solid, and that was a done deal. Then came the part where we had to get the bottom half on, which was like the neck part, basically the neck part, and that was having a lot of difficulty, because for some reason on paper the design looked great, but when you try to put the design on my head, we lost surface. So there was actually a little part that we had to actually slice and manipulate, and he actually redrew it as close as possible to the original design, manipulating it a bit more to just to fit on the back of my head. And of course I was completely fine with that. And what he drew as the finishing connector piece was fantastic. I mean, this guy knows how to incorporate the same type of style with my tribal tattoos, with something that he needs to just make up on the go. And he was able to just draw in a piece that connected the two, which wasn't originally there, but it looks like it should have always been there. And I can't thank him enough for being able to do that. If it wasn't for his ability to do that, we might not have even gotten tattooed. So I wanted to thank him again for being able to do that. One heck of a tattoo artist, I tell you what. And so then we got the design on the back, and everything was perfect and solid, but that took 3 hours. 3 hours. And so luckily I signed up for a 4.5-hour appointment, and just to make sure that it got done. So no, it was only a 3.5-hour appointment. Yeah, 3.5 hours. But of course, if I'm always his last person, and since I've been with him for so long, well, and because he's very much wants to make the customer happy, so he's not gonna just stop when his shop closes for the night, but he'll continue through the night past the usual time just to finish the tattoo for me. And so that's what he did. We ended up going about 45 minutes after the shop closed, just to finish up that design. But of course, he gets the gratification that I'm a very happy customer of his, and this means the world to me. And it means the world to me getting the tattoo, and it means the world to me that he appreciates all that, and he'll manipulate his schedule just for me. So I want to thank you again for that as well. You're one amazing guy. And so that's when we took a break. That's when we took a break. He let the stencil dry up a bit so that it wouldn't move when he was tattooing, and then eventually we came back and we started to tattoo. Now this is the first tattoo that I've chosen to record some of the procedure. Yep, I brought in a video camera and we set it up and we recorded some of the procedure. So At the end of this episode, I'm going to let you watch some of that. But for now, I'm going to continue talking about the procedure itself and how it went. So he started at the bottom on the back of on my back, because it starts on my back and then it goes up onto my neck and then onto my head. He started at the bottom, and this is another important thing that I learned very quickly, and he also expressed the need for this. Now, I am somebody who doesn't usually eat a lot of food. I don't feel like my body needs that much food, and so during work I don't usually have lunch. But there was a situation, you remember last week, where I talked about this and I didn't have anything to eat, and then I went in for an extensively long tattoo, and by the end of it I was dying because it was so painful. My body just didn't have the nutrients it needed to handle all that pain, and so I barely made it through that one. But then ever since then, every time I get a tattoo, I bring food to eat for lunch at work. And this is the new thing everyone at work knows, that whenever I'm in the lunchroom eating, it means that I'm getting a tattoo done that day after work. And so I had a really nice meal, and my body was full of good nutrients. It was a very nice sandwich, full of, the meats, the vegetables, and with the bread. So it was a really good, nutritious sandwich. And of course, I drank a lot of water. Of course, water is good for your body. You should always drink a lot of water, of course. As you know, I like to be a healthy person in that aspect. A lot of water, just not so much food. But we can go into more in depth on how my body stores food relatively well, and so the nutrients do last a long time for me. So during this tattoo process, my body was all ready to go, and although it was a little frustrating during that 3 hours trying to get the design on, finally when we started to do the outline, we were just both really relieved that it was finally ready to go and we can start getting the design on. And then we weren't have to worry about anything once the outline was ready. Then the next appointment we just worried about the filling. And so the design started to go, and he was doing the line work, and I was just sitting there calmly and really started on the bottom, and you felt the usual needle sting that you get when you're going up, and then eventually you get onto the neck, and the neck is neck wasn't that bad. Actually, the back for some reason was a little bit more sensitive than the neck part. But then we get to the head, and the head. Now he's never done a head before, but I trusted him enough to go through with it, and he went very nicely. He even talked to somebody who explained to him how it was going to feel for him, so he at least had some kind of an idea how it was going to be, and then he can react and judge accordingly during the process. And it went very well, very well. I felt the vibrations in my head because it was my skull, so there was more vibrations than usual. But I think for some reason the pain wasn't that bad. Now I think it has to do with a lot of different factors. Obviously my body was full of nutrients, and so it had a lot of strength in itself to withstand the pain. I was also in a very good mood. We talked about mood before. As long as you're in a really good mood and happy, then it's going to work. I mean, you're going to have less pain. So all those factors combined, and this has got to be one of the most amazing and proud tattoos that I've ever gotten. Proud is a good word. The hand was more of an amazing thing that really changed my life. The head tattoo is more of a proud moment in my life when I was able to withstand getting my skull tattooed. And so during the procedure, I just had the biggest smile on my face getting this thing done, and I was enjoying every moment of it. The only sad part was, the shop was closed by the time we were tattooing, so nobody else was there to witness it. It was just me and him there getting it done. But next time there might be somebody in the stall next door who might be able to see the lucky person who gets to be in the stall next over to my artist's stall. They'll be able to watch the fill-in process, actually seeing somebody's got a head tattoo. But like I said, I'm also going to record that one as well. So in the next episode at the end, I'll also put in some of that footage as well. And so, you know, he finished the design, and that process was over. Now, let's go into talking about the healing process. You know, he didn't wrap up the head, but he wrapped up the neck part just so that I could put my shirt on. And so it was protected from whatever may have been on my shirt. And so driving home was fine. It takes, this shop that I go to, like I told you, it takes an hour and a half to get there, an hour and a half to get home, but it's worth it. You know, I have a really good relationship with the artist now, and of course he's worth that trip. So the healing process was fine. I slept on my side. Of course, my pillows were clean. I kept them clean. And I slept on my side most of the parts, so only a little bit on my neck, or right behind my ear might have touched the pillow. And so hopefully nothing was really, well, I mean, it's already 3 days later, and everything looks completely fine. It's healing up just as it should. So I'm very fortunate about that. As I always am. I always take care great of my tattoos. And so now it's just waiting until the next appointment, which is next month actually. 4 weeks. 4 weeks from now, I'll actually get the fill-in. So we gotta leave a lot of time for the outline to heal completely, so that eventually we can, you know, shave the head again, so we can do the fill-in. And then I'll have to make the decision if I'm going to let my hair grow back, or if I'm going to make this continuous process of where I want to keep shaving my head so that I'll always have the tattoo to be able to look at whenever I want to use a mirror to go look at it. Other than that, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Until we meet again, this has always been Lucien Gray, and I hope you enjoyed the little clips that I put in showing the procedure of getting my head tattooed. So, thank you everybody for watching, and have a good day. Okay, alright, good. David? Yep. That was so fine. Fine. Okay. How do you want me? Just like that. What?
Cold stuff coming up.
Okay.
Alright, man. And you can roll again. Roll back towards the camera if you'll see it again. And roll back towards me. There you go. Cool. Alright, man. Careful getting up.